Good evening, everyone. You are in the spotlight with Brian Gardner for this Tuesday, November the 22nd, 2016. Good to have you all here for our second of two shows this week, our second show of the day. For those that joined us this afternoon for the Football Blitz, thank you to you. To those that didn't, the Football Blitz for this week is available in archive, both here on Google Plus and YouTube, and also, of course, on Podbean and iTunes in audio format for your convenience. That is our Football Blitz for this week. Obviously, we did it early because of the Thanksgiving holiday, with football being on Thursday and Friday this week. We wanted to make sure that we got that in, obviously, also with the holiday, too. So if you're interested in that show, again, you can find it on archive on Google Plus, YouTube, Podbean, and iTunes anytime you wish. So that happened this afternoon, and here we are tonight for our usual Tuesday night primetime show. We have a sports wrestling entertainment jam-packed extravaganza on tap for you all tonight. Obviously, we did football this afternoon, so anything else from sports that we have to cover, we will do so here on the show tonight. Wrestling, we'll talk about the fallout from WWE Survivor Series and WWE Monday Night Raw last night, and any other big wrestling news that we have to talk about, we will. And on the entertainment side of things, we'll do the box office beat, TV highlights, and if we have some time, we'll get into some entertainment news. That's if we have some time. Again, we have a lot to do, so if we have time, we'll do some things. If not, we won't. It's one of those shows where we've got very little in the way of time because we have so much to get to. So just bear in mind, we might not get to that any entertainment news tonight, but if we have time, we will. All right, so with all that being said, let me remind you all the ways which you can interact and contribute to our show. Have your voice heard by emailing us at itspotlight411@gmail.com. You can also follow us and tweet us at itspotlight411. Please remember to use the hashtags, hashtag itspotlight411, or you can do hashtag, if you're talking about maybe a football show or whatever, you can use hashtag ITS football. If you're talking about wrestling, hashtag ITS wrestling, or you can create some other random hashtag if you want to. You can create some kind of random hashtag as long as it's not disrespectful or insulting or anything like that. There's enough of that going on in the world. Also, you can, and also, if you could, please start it with hashtag ITS, whatever you use as a hashtag. That way it helps promote our show. So as long as you do that, you're pretty good. You can also find us on Facebook. Search for In the Spotlight 411 on Facebook, and make sure you like our page upon finding us. So this is my second show today. In case you haven't noticed, I'm kind of stumbling over myself because it's just been, again, when you do these two shows in one, it's 2 shows in one day. It's hard. Okay, it's really, really hard. So keep that in mind here as I try to muddle through the second show of the day. And again, we did it. The football show we did at around, what time was it? 2:30 p.m. Eastern time, and we got off around 4:15. Here we are, less than 5 hours later, and we're right back in the thick of things. So bear in mind that it's been a long day. So keep that in mind. So we got a jam-packed show as I wait for my co-host to jump on. I'm not sure how long he's going to take. I was just texting with him. You'd think he'd be on, but he's not. Probably assumed I was going to be late, which I kind of was. But you also hear my dog in the background, as usual, making herself and her presence known here tonight. Let me give you a little insight while we wait into next week. Next week we'll be back on schedule with 3 shows, back on schedule, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. Obviously, Tuesday will be our sports and wrestling show. Next Thursday will be our entertainment show. And then, of course, Friday will be the football blitz. So we'll have that all for you next week. So back to normal next week. Nothing special. Again, we're just going to kind of let it be a normal week for us next week after the last couple weeks have been kind of full and jam-packed. Again, that's next week. This week, this is our last show for the week. We will not have another show until a week from tonight. So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, nothing going on. So our next show will be a week from tonight. And as we get back on schedule going into the month of December. So please keep all that in mind. All right, so I think that's all the announcements. I'm trying to remember if I had anything else. A couple of you, and you might, it's interesting because this comes from people that have been fans of our show for at least a few years. A couple of you have asked me when we're going to start the process for the In the Spotlight Film Awards this year. And first of all, my reaction was shocked because obviously we wouldn't start that after the holidays anyway. We never have. We've always started it after the holidays. Second of all, my reaction was, did I say or do something to encourage people to think this? And I can't think of anything other than maybe people during the TV awards thought maybe, because we switched up the alignment of the TV awards this year. And a part of me, and that might have made people think that we were going to move up that process, because I think I don't know if I mentioned something last year, but I think I mentioned something. Maybe I had mentioned something last year about extending the process for the film awards, because the way that works seems to people seem to have more problems with that than they do the TV awards. For some reason, the TV awards, maybe because it's summer and people don't want to waste any more time or whatever, they kind of rush it and get everything in. So maybe there's something to that. But in the wintertime, see, I would think in the wintertime it would be easier for people. But I guess not. I guess people have a problem with it. Maybe it's because it falls during like the Super Bowl time and everything else. I don't know. It's just weird. So I don't know. But anyway, a lot of people had asked me about that. And look, in case you're new or in case you forgot or for some reason thought differently, the film award process, we will start usually the week after New Year's. And then depending on when the Oscars are, we usually like to do them like the week after the Oscars. So whenever the Oscars are is usually the week after when we do it. So, you pretty much plan for the first or second week of January, us starting the process, and then we'll play it out over the 2 months, and then have the award show sometime around the last week of February, first week of March. So for those wondering about that, that is the way it works. So, and that's always a big event for us, obviously, just like the TV awards. So we look forward to that in the new year. People have also asked me, and I'll mention this too because I've been avoiding addressing it, about when we're going to move, because obviously we've made it abundantly clear that we're not going to stay with this setup. We're probably going to end up going back to being just an audio exclusive podcast, which I think we all prefer. When are we going to do that? I had talked a few months ago about doing it in October. It did not happen. And look, I'm going to be honest with you folks, once you get past October, you really don't want to do anything in November or December, because with the holidays, it's too hard to get something over with people during those 2 months. So once you get past October, you're pretty much accepting the fact that you're going to wait to January. So that's pretty much the target right now, is sometime in January. That's when we, people remember, if anybody that's been with us since the beginning, that's when we made our big move to TalkShoe, which is where we spent most of our 6 years. January's been good to us, so that's something that that might happen. I don't have a date. I figure that people have been asking me about Jeff Tech, when he's going to come back, our technical producer. I'd guess right around the time that we make that transition will be it, or maybe even before that. I don't know. He hasn't told me. But we'll see. So that's all of these things are things that people have been asking me about for one reason or another, and I just wanted to address them while we wait for my co-host to jump on, who has not jumped on yet. So we're not going to stall anymore. I'm not going to pull anything else any other rabbits out of my hat to stall things. So we're going to move along here so that we can get some things going here. So we're going to do things a little differently tonight. We're going to start off. We're going to kind of go back and forth a little bit tonight. We're going to start off in entertainment. And as I said, if we have time at the end of the show, we'll go back to entertainment and do. Oh, there's my co-host. Mike has jumped on the line here. Just when I was about to get started. So, perfect timing. There you go. Mike is in the spotlight, I hope. Okay, I don't know if he is or not. I'm not getting audio, so we'll say that Mike is almost in the spotlight. That's what we'll say right now. As I see his icon on screen here. All right, so we will move here and just keep going until he comes on. Yes, as my wife tries to distract me. We only have one host now. We can't be distracted. Yes. Live podcasting. Love it. Okay, you want me to give you a kiss on there? Is that what you want? No? There you go. Thank you. There. That better? No. Okay, whatever. I'll get some mail about that later. That's okay. I just kissed air. Yes. Yes. You can give me a kiss. I don't care. Come over here. I'm stalling anyway, so go ahead. No? Okay, fine. Don't want to make a cameo. Don't want to give her hubby a kiss on there. That's okay. Um, okay. Anyway, that distraction is brought to you by yes, yes, yes. Mm, that should bring in the audience. That should bring in the audience. I'm telling you. Welcome to November sweeps. That's what that is. Yes, yes. Oh, and there's Mike. Mike in the spotlight here, right in the middle of my wife trying to distract me with her everlasting charm, as our dog is still outside. So, yeah. So, hey, Mike, how's it going?
Well, I was here,
And then you.
and then I left because that was weird. All I wanted to do, the green dots are going. It's just that you were talking and you weren't listening like usual. All I want to do is drink the rest of my right here in this Margaritaville mug. Kindly refrain for the remainder of the show.
Well, hey, that she encouraged it. She encouraged it. Like I said, I'm gonna get mail about that later, but that's okay. That's okay. Anyway, Mike's in the spotlight. So as I was saying before, we're gonna
get mail later. Just kindly refrain from it for the rest of the show, and then you could do that shit later.
Sure. Okay.
And you could scar Justin for life.
Sure. Okay. So as I said, we're going to follow a different framework tonight. We're going to do some entertainment, jump over to sports and wrestling, and then if we have some time, we might jump back to entertainment, do some entertainment news if we have time. Again, that's not a necessity tonight, so we're going to kind of use that as an extra filler if need be. So, all right, so we'll start in entertainment with the box office beat. And actually, there's something interesting that took place this weekend. It's something that's going to bring a lot of discussion, much like what happened last year with the Hunger Games, in a way. With the final Hunger Games. Although in this case, we're talking about the first movie of a franchise, or the first movie in a new franchise in an existing universe, obviously. No, not Rogue One. Thank you. That's a month away. Thanks. Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, which my wife is cheering about. Okay. Which, in a lot of ways, disappointed last weekend. Now, obviously, you're going to look at some press releases, and you're going to see $75 million, and people are going to be like, that's a great number for the third week in November for a movie that didn't feature anybody. And it's not a slight on Eddie Redmayne or Colin Farrell or whatever. It's not a slight on them. It's just that they're not necessarily known for box office drawing power. They're just not. They haven't built themselves to that point yet. Having to be being a lead in a vehicle such as this, a film vehicle such as this. So, you take that into account here. And then you also take into account the fact that you have movies in Doctor Strange and Trolls and even Arrival, which are doing really, really well right now. You take that into account, you look at it and go $75 million with kids still not out of school. That's pretty damn good. On the other hand, you look at this as part of the Harry Potter universe, and that Warner Brothers gave it this prime real estate, which is a big box office week before Thanksgiving, and said, here, do what previous films have done in this slot. And it, in a lot of ways, did not do what they probably wanted it to do. Now, look, this film's going to be fine. As most Harry Potter movies, it's going to make most of its money overseas and ride off into the sunset, and you'll have 4 more movies of it no matter what happens here. I think we all understand that. But I think there is a level of concern here. And maybe you can attribute it to the fact there was a lot of disappointment with the last of the Harry Potter movies. Maybe you can attribute it to that. Maybe you could attribute it to people not feeling as anticipate, not looking at this as an as look at. Okay, let's start over again. Again, second show today, folks. Maybe people weren't as anticipatory about this, anticipating this as much as the Harry Potter movies were anticipated over the years. I didn't tend to see as much enthusiasm for this as I would have seen for Harry Potter and whatever the next chapter is, you know. Now, again, could that be because of the last movie and how it disappointed? Yes. Could that be because of the lack of star power? Maybe. Could that be because of the competition? Maybe. Could that be because of the weather in some parts? Maybe. We'll find out, because it's gonna. And here's the problem and the level of concern for Fantastic Beasts. You have Moana coming out tonight, and you have a box office weekend here where you're going to have the competition that you've already been dealing with get a boost because people, again, are going to go out, much like we've seen over holiday movie weekends. People go out and see movies that maybe have come out over the last couple of weeks that they haven't had a chance to see. So those movies are going to get a boost. Doctor Strange will get a boost. Trolls will get a boost. Arrival will get a boost. Those movies will get a boost. And that makes it even harder for Fantastic Beasts. And especially with the family audience that's going to be flocking to Moana this weekend, that's where the problem is going to lie for Fantastic Beasts. So how do you look at this? I think it really just depends. If it ends up holding up pretty good against the competition, I think you look at this and go, all right, you know what? It just didn't pull in a good opening weekend for whatever reason. If it doesn't hold up well, then you're looking at this as, okay, this is the new status quo for this franchise, for this Harry Potter universe franchise. You're gonna probably see this. You know, these movies are probably gonna open somewhere in the vicinity of 60 to 80 million, and that's pretty much it. Unless, you know, or maybe we're facing a Batman Begins scenario where it's gonna have to, you know, the first one doesn't do particularly well, and the second, third, and fourth ones do okay, do great. You know, Johnny Depp will have a bigger role in the second one. Maybe that helps it. I don't know. People think Johnny Depp's box office poison right now, but, you know, maybe it helps it. Now, I would say also this: if you're also looking for something else to concern yourself with, it's only made 145.5 million overseas, which is even a little bit down from what people thought. It's now 226.6 million is well over its budget at this point. But I guess you can look at this with some concern because of the fact that it's not even doing as well overseas as they expected. Now, could that be because of the competition? Doctor Strange's been doing really well overseas, yeah. Or could it just be a rejection of this whole thing? I don't know. But I think there's a level of concern there. Outside of Fantastic Beasts, the other new releases did not amount to much. Edge of 17, 4.7 million. Bleed for this, 2.3 million. Bleed for this really shocked me because I thought for sure with all the buzz around it that it could at least pull in over 5 million. It did not do that. Again, it's a $6 million budget, so no, I don't think you really, you know, fly off the handle about it, but still, and Edge of 17 was never expected to do a whole lot anyway, so no, I mean, again, Bleed for this is a disappointment. Edge of 17, not shocking. You have to give credit to Doctor Strange, Trolls, and Arrival. They all held up really, really well. Doctor Strange, 17.7 million, Trolls, 17.4, Arrival, 12.1. All held up well. Almost Christmas dropped considerably, but we expected that. 7.2 million. Hacksaw Ridge with a very good hold of 37.3, only dropping 37.3%, 6.6 million for that movie. So all in all, it's a very good box office weekend. Even if you see Fantastic Beasts as a disappointment, it was a good box office weekend because of the holds by some of these movies, and you know, that kind of evens it out a little bit. And the way that Doctor Strange is holding, maybe that did hurt Fantastic Beasts a little bit. Maybe it did. You know, I mean, it's a possibility. It's already made 390.4 million overseas, and this weekend it'll no doubt get over the $600 million mark. Again, I said 700 million for that movie at least. It's going to hit that easily. So, yeah, maybe it's hurting it. I wouldn't rule it out. So that's your story. I think the big headline right now is, and going forward, is what Fantastic Beasts will do. I think that would be your big storyline, especially going into the Thanksgiving holiday weekend. Is can it hold up against the competition? Because right now, as it stands, the biggest release this weekend is scheduled to at least make $80 million over the 5 days, at least. And that big release is Moana. As we shift our attention to this weekend, Thanksgiving weekend, box office, obviously one of the bigger box office weekends of the year, and obviously, as usual, getting underway tonight or obviously Wednesday. So you get the 5-day numbers, and you get the weekend numbers, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You get that whole deal, different numbers and all that and such. Obviously, shopping plays a role. Obviously, weather plays a role. But again, there's still always traditionally is a big box office weekend no matter what. It's just how big of a weekend it is. It will be dependent on those factors and whether people really value coming to the movies this weekend over shopping or anything else they have to do. So, and honestly, over the years, you see a progression. Wednesday usually Wednesday's a high travel day, so you won't get a huge number. Thursday, Thanksgiving night. It's usually a big shopping night now. So it used to be a big movie night. Now it's not. But by the time you get to Friday at around 5 o'clock in the evening, people are pretty much shopped out, and that's when you might see a big boost at the box office. And then Saturday will be a big movie day, and then Sunday's always a big travel day. People go home to start the new work week. So really, this 5-day period for Thanksgiving weekend always amounts to really, in my mind, 2 days, Friday and Saturday. You have a good Friday and Saturday, that pulls the whole weekend up for you. So, and again, the biggest release this weekend is Moana, an animated film from Disney, opening in 3,875 theaters with the voice talents of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, Jermaine Clement, and newcomer Aloy. I think her name is Alio. I can't pronounce her name. She's new, so I'm just gonna go Aloy Kokwavaho. I apologize if I'm messing up the name. I have no idea how to pronounce it. I haven't heard her name even read off somewhere. So all you need to know about this is this movie's going to do hugely well. 80+ million over the 5 days is very, very likely. I actually think that's setting the mark way too low. I could see it being well over 100 million for the 5 days. It's been very well anticipated. It's gotten great reviews. The Rock's in it, so that helps. And it's a family movie, and it's an animated movie. I think it's going to do really, really well this weekend. It's going to easily be number one. And again, 80 million plus over the 5 days might be way too low to me. I think over 100 million. So if you go over the 5 days, I'll say 110 million, 110, 120 million. Over the 3-day weekend, I'm going to go with 60 to 70 million over the 3 days. Actually, no, I'll take that back. 70 to 80 million over the 3 days. That makes more sense. The second biggest release this weekend is a romantic thriller called Allied from Paramount, opening in 3,160 theaters. Directed by Robert Zemeckis and starring Marion Cotillard and Brad Pitt. This will play well to older audiences. It's set in World War II time. I don't expect a lot from it. Maybe over the 5 days, you might get it to 20, 25 million. I don't expect a lot for it. This kind of movie won't do well over the weekend. It's opening in a lot of theaters, and it's got Brad Pitt, but I just can't see it. Maybe, okay, I'll raise it up. We'll go 30, 35 over the 5 days. Maybe 15 to 20 over the weekend and 30 to 35 over the 5 days. The second biggest release is Bad Santa 2, a comedy from Broad Green Pictures, opening in over 2,500 theaters. R-rated. Only budgeted at 26 million, so it's like the first one, small budget. Not really too worried about making that back because it should. Kathy Bates, Tony Cox, Christina Hendricks, and Billy Bob Thornton all star in the film. I do wonder if it's been a little too long for this. We'll see. There is, people might want a comedy this weekend amidst everything else. It's a possibility. It is R-rated, so you set your sights low. So for the 3-day, the normal weekend, you could probably see maybe around 15 to 20 million. Over the 5 days, maybe around 30 million. Because this weekend plays more to families than does anything else. So you could see that movie Battling of Allied for third place. You could see that. But we'll see. We'll see. I mean, it could be also battling Doctor Strange for third place too. So The fourth release this weekend is Rules Don't Apply, a comedy drama from Fox, opening in 2,382 theaters. Directed and written and starring Warren Beatty, Lily Collins, Alden Ehrenreich, Haley Bennett, Matthew Broderick, Martin Sheen, Alec Baldwin, Ed Harris, Annette Bening, Steve Coogan. Great cast. Ira Platt, Candice Bergen. Great cast. It's gonna, again, another movie that's gonna play more to older audiences. Small budget too, $25 million. So I think this one will probably make even less than Allied, to be honest. I would say maybe for the 3-day weekend, 13 to 14 million, maybe around 25, 26 million for the whole 5 days. It'll be probably, I'm probably looking at 5th place over the weekend. So the way I see this going is this: Moana will be far and away number 1. Number 2 will be Fantastic Beasts, probably around 60, 70 million for the 5 days, maybe 30, 40 million for the 3. And then you'll have a race for 3rd place. Doctor Strange, Bad Santa 2, Allied, all for the 3 days have been that, 15, $20 million range. 25, 30, 35 million for the 5 days. And then, again, both movies will be in succession, all battling each other for 3rd, 4th, and 5th place. And then you'll have Rules Don't Apply, probably right around 5th or 6th place with around, we'll say, 13, 14 million for the 3 days. For the 5 days, probably around 23, 24, 25 million. And then everything else will fall into place after that. Trolls will probably be in play there, too, but Rules Don't Apply. About the same numbers, that kind of thing. So it'll be a great weekend for the box office. Again, how big? Really dependent on, again, how many people want to see these movies and, how other factors like shopping and weather impact them. But we know for guaranteed that Moana is going to dominate, and how much it dominates. Will we get a Frozen situation here? I don't know. To me, it's got more going for it than Frozen did because it's got a little bit more momentum going in, and the competition is not directly going to hurt it like what happened with Frozen that year. Frozen took a while. It took the first week it didn't have that big premiere. And then it kind of just had legs going all the way through December into January. Moana will probably have that big first weekend, but will it hold in the weeks to come? We'll see. It has the potential to be another Frozen, that's for sure. All right, so that's this weekend, a big box office weekend, one of the biggest box office weekends of the year. Mike, do you have any thoughts on last week, this week, anything else?
I think Moana is going to kick a lot of ass. Looking forward to that one. Woof, woof.
Now, if you're looking for competition next week, you ain't going to find it because next week's a complete lull kind of week, as you only have one new release, an Incarnate, a horror film that's not expected to do huge business. So, and after that, a comedy the week after. So really, things are going to kind of quiet down for a little bit as you play out these films that have already been released. And then around the 16th, you'll pick things up again with Collateral Beauty and Rogue One, a Star Wars story. We'll pick things up again for the box office. So realistically, this is probably the epicenter of the holiday movie season. The biggest weekend. So, it should be an interesting weekend, and we'll see how much Disney dominates it by. That's for sure, because it's nobody else is taking number 1 but Moana. No one. So, all right. So that's the box office beat. TV highlights. I will throw to my co-host here because I'm sure he has far more than I do. Mike.
You're skipping all over the place, and now it's truly disturbing.
Okay.
Disturbing.
Okay.
Yeah. Canadian behind you.
I know. I'm well aware of this.
Speaking of actual Canadians, this week was. There wasn't. If I saw the episode this week, I'm pretty sure I did. Yeah, it was pretty solid. Solid, can't complain. Arrow has been good, and now we're going into the big 4 episode arc with Fulton and Supergirl. So we got the invasion storyline coming up. Oh, doing well. Flash is getting more interesting. Little plot point they forgot that that Caitlin Snow was developing the ice powers before Barry became selfish and ran through time again. However, since he reset the timeline, you can say that it enhanced that she was becoming Killer Frost. Now, that was the episode tonight. But last week, the episode was pretty good. Can't complain too much about it. Barry is continuing to blame himself for everything because that was a dick move, Barry. Dick move. I will recommend highly Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency. Great episode. A lot of character growth. A lot of interesting stuff happening. The show is super interesting. It's on BBC America. Why aren't you watching it? It is fan-freaking-tastic. Great acting all around. BBC America aired one of the Lost Second Doctor episodes, Second Doctor stories called something of the Power of the Daleks or something like that. Mm-hmm. Classic Who. Interesting stuff. Really interesting stuff. They recovered the audio and they animated it. Their ability to kind of match what originally happened now. This is not the first time they've done this with either the first or the second Doctor stories. I own a first Doctor story where they did that. So, Reign of Terror. This one was all about the Daleks. It was a big deal. They recovered this one. I recommend that you go out of your way to watch it, especially if you like Doctor Who, especially if you like Classic Who. Classic Who does not get enough love. So, Dirk Gently, Arrow. Christopher was really good this week. Highly recommended. Designated Survivor was okay. I don't remember watching the Legends of Tomorrow episode this week. I don't know if there was one. I'll have to double check. What else was on that I watched? Lucifer was good. Oh, Speechless. Speechless and Lethal Weapon. They are the new shows of the year. So Speechless, Lethal Weapon. Well, that and Dirk Gently was a new show of the year too. Arrow, Flash was all right. Doctor Who, Power of the Daleks, I think it says. Whatever. So there it is. Those are your recommendations this week. You should be watching all those shows. Designated Survivor's okay. Have yet to see this week's Conviction sometime soon.
Okay. So here's the thing. You would think that with a lot of the shows that I make it a point to watch quickly because of those shows being on break, you would think that I would catch up on some shows that I've been putting off, and I have not done that. So, I don't really have a lot this week. I mean, I think I honestly believe the only two shows I watched this week were Walking Dead and South Park. I think those are the only two shows I watched this week.
Stop sucking, Brian. Why do you suck so hard?
I haven't had time to watch anything else. Don't blame me.
I haven't really had time either, but yet I'm caught up.
Oh, wow. Okay.
3 a.m. every day, jerking off on the couch. Watch television.
Yeah, you know what I think is funny? A year ago, we were in different spots. I was the one that always had a lot to give as far as TV highlights, and you were the one that was falling behind everything. So, you know what? Double standard.
All now, and you need to get off yours.
Well, I will say is, you know what? Honestly,
technically, that was a Jeff Deck reference.
It was a good one. I will say is this. I didn't really care for Walking Dead this week, so I'm not even going to highlight that. I didn't. It was a slow-moving episode. It did what it was supposed to, but I didn't care for it. South Park was good. Mostly because of the ending, because we're finally going somewhere with that. So, I mean, you could tell that this is not. They had to scurry a little bit because they didn't have this. The storyline's not at all going to go the way they wanted it to. They didn't think Trump was going to win. He won. They have to kind of, change things up a little bit.
Although I don't mean to interrupt you real quick, but apparently there's a story out there that the basis for a recount. So we might have a recount, especially as Hillary Clinton's popular vote lead almost rises to 2 million over Trump. So
I wouldn't get your hopes up.
I'm not getting my hopes up. However, there's evidence that there was Russian hacking in key states. So there's a chance for a recount. And the only reason why I'm mentioning this here is that there's a chance they can salvage this season.
Well, I will give them credit for this. They found a clever way to kind of I guess change things up a little bit, because they needed to be honest. I think that it's pretty clear. Obviously, they thought Hillary was going to win, and then that was going to be their story arc. And maybe Trump was going to be the main, not Trump, but Garrison was going to be kind of like the main villain in a way in the end, because they kind of set that up a week before the election when they had the member berries fall into Caitlyn Jenner's tea or her drink. I mean,
jeez.
I think they kind of set that up. Instead, now with Trump winning, that means Garrison had to win, and it looks like they're going with a mob boss member berry as one of the villains, and that's kind of where they're going with it because they really don't have anything else they can do. We'll see how they. I think right now, though, the good thing about South Park is they've kind of set themselves up with a couple of different storylines to all play out together. They have the Cartman, Heidi, Butters thing. They have, and in my opinion, what really will be a great payoff will be when Gerald finally gets exposed. So when they play that out, which they've set up beautifully, then that's something that at the very least, even if the member berry stuff kind of falls completely apart, you still have a couple of other things that are going to be worth the payoff. So it's not a complete, mess as it could have been if it was just all aligned on the member berries, which a lot of people love, and I like them. But I think we're getting to the point we have a James Ellsworth situation going on here where we're getting way too many of the member berries now. You know what I mean? That it's too much of what's really a good thing can be bad, and that's kind of what's going on. Too many member berries instead of just using them the way they were using them for most of the year, and then it's just you're just exploiting something good and making it bad. That's kind of what's going on. So I'll leave it at that. That's the only thing that I thought really that I kind of liked this week. So again, I didn't really watch much. Go figure. So yeah, so that's all I got. So that's TV highlights. Speaking of things we did watch, we're going to jump to wrestling right now because we don't have a lot of sports stuff, so we can kind of leave that for the end. We'll jump to wrestling right now and talk about what we saw and at Survivor Series and, of course, Monday Night Raw last night. First off, Survivor Series, which
hold on. I need to make a phone call. I will be back a little bit.
Okay. Okay. All right. So as he ducks out, we're gonna make a change here because I want Mike around for the wrestling stuff. So instead of jumping to wrestling, we'll jump into sports. We'll switch the order up a little bit. We'll switch the order up a little bit. We'll jump. The only thing we're going to do in sports here tonight, again, in terms of, obviously we did football this afternoon. There isn't a whole lot going on. Obviously, in baseball, you're building up to, just building up to the really what we all call the flurry of free agency, which is usually around the winter meetings, which is coming up in a couple weeks. So you have that going on. We haven't gotten to that point yet, but there haven't been any big signings or big trades. So there ain't really anything to talk about. You have a lot of rumors out there. Nothing concrete yet. But that generally stuff in baseball will be picking up in great amounts next week, and then especially the week after with the winter meetings. So you'll be hearing more, and we'll be talking more about that and all the big stuff going on from in free agency and trade. Everything picks up. Right now, there's nothing on this, and nothing's really happened. So, obviously we had the Brian McCann deal last week by the Yankees, which, McCann goes to Houston. Houston's going to have a really good lineup next year. Not just a good lineup, but they're going to have a really good team. That's one of the things they were missing was a good hitting catcher, a good offensive catcher. Say what you want about McCann and the fact that he doesn't really seem to hit well for average anymore, but he hits for power still, and you get more out of him than most catchers. So it's a good move for the Astros. It's a good move for the Yankees because they didn't need Brian McCann, and you weren't going to get enough production out of him to justify him as a DH. So, in my opinion, so that was a good deal. But that's really the only deal of significance. So again, next week and the week after, that's with the winter meetings looming, you'll have more stuff going on, free agency, trades, etc. So as things pick up, we'll obviously talk more about baseball and what's going on there. Last week we talked a lot about the awards and stuff, and we already covered that. So there's not really much going on in that regard. So outside of, again, that covers baseball. Football, we talked about that. The only thing left is college basketball. NBA, nothing much going on. Just kind of playing out the string here early. As far as college basketball goes, you had Duke lose to Kansas last week in the Champions Classic. That was obviously a big game, great game. Both Champions Classic games, big games. You've seen Oregon lose over the last week. I'm trying to think if there's any other significant events that have taken place. Michigan State barely beat Florida Gulf Coast. There's a clock error situation there, which people are kind of up in arms about, but I digress. Let's see what else. I'm trying to think of what else took place over the week. As I look at my headlines here. Tonight you got some great games, Wisconsin, Georgetown in the Maui Invitational. Let's see, Texas, Colorado, which started to ended with Colorado beating Texas. Later tonight, you got Oklahoma State, North Carolina. So you had some good games here tonight. But yeah, I mean, it's been, I won't say quiet, but it's been, you've seen some good play. You've seen some teams take some big jumps forward here. Obviously, Kansas with the win over Duke. Kentucky looked good last week. They're the new number one. So Champions Classic kind of gave us a little bit of a gauge. I think we talked a little bit about that last week. But other than that, there isn't a whole lot. Duke beat a good Rhode Island team. And they are a good Rhode Island team, mind you. Let's see, I'm trying to think if there's any upsets or anything big that happened over the week that we're missing out here. I don't think there was. Obviously, again, we've talked about Duke losing to Kansas. Michigan State almost losing their game. Cincinnati, Rhode Island beat Cincinnati, which is going to help their ranking, even though they lost to Duke. Let's see, any big... Let's checking out everything here. No, I don't think there was anything significant. So really the takeaways, as you go, and this is a big week for college basketball. Obviously, you start the season, you get some big games out of the gate, then you get the Champions Classic, and then you get into the holiday, tournaments, which you're in full array now. They tell you a lot. They do tell you a lot, especially tournament play. Seeing a team having to play day after day, it gets you it's like a primer for March in a lot of ways, even though it's early. It gives you a little bit of an idea. And again, we'll do a college basketball preview. I don't think we'll do it next week, but it'll be the week after, I believe. And by that point, you'll have a pretty good idea of what you're looking at. Oh, Oregon lost last week. I think we talked about that last week. So you'll get a pretty good gauge of how, what a team is, what their strengths, their weaknesses. And obviously those things can change over the course of the season. And we talked about that last week. You look at a team in November, December, and then you look at a team in February and March, they're often very different. Some teams are good from beginning to end, but even the good teams get better. So it's a journey. It's a period of development. It's transformation, and But generally, once you get about a month into the season, usually right after the holiday tournaments are over, you can look at these teams and go, all right, I kind of have a good idea of what these teams are, the players they have, and then you can kind of look at it from a preview standpoint, which we will do in a couple weeks, and kind of look at it and see what you have and what teams could have the potential to make deep runs in the March and so on and so forth. So, the only takeaway I have from the last week is, you can't get too crazy about the Kansas thing because Kansas is a good team and Duke doesn't have all their players. So Michigan State is really struggling, but they have struggled before at the beginning of the season, so you don't really worry too much about that. Connecticut's struggling, but again, that could change in a heartbeat. They got some injuries there too, so who knows? I think the one thing you take also out of this past week is there may be not as much parity this year as you've seen in the past couple years, because a lot of these teams that are maybe top 10, top 15, and a couple of them already have losses, but they have losses because they played teams that are also in the top 10 or top 15. They didn't lose to teams. I remember last year at this point, we had a lot of teams, top 10, top 15 teams that lost to unranked opponents or lost games that they shouldn't have lost. And it made for a very interesting tournament selection. We all know that. But that's kind of the year we had last year. And even the year before that, we did as well. So far this year, you're not seeing too much. You've seen a few, but not too much. Not too much. So that, to me, now, again, that could change. We could be sitting here in February or March saying, well, there's just as much parity as there's been the last couple of years. But out of the gate this year, you're not seeing it as much. As you have the last couple years. The teams that are top 10, top 15 for the most part are looking like top 10, top 15 teams. And when they lose, they're losing to teams of that same ilk. So that's kind of what you're seeing. I think that's the biggest takeaway I've seen so far. And over the last week, in a week that didn't have a lot of things to take away, I think that's a part of it, is that you're not seeing too much parity right now. You're seeing the teams that you thought would be dominant, and not too many really big surprises. If you want to call Michigan State struggling a surprise, I guess so, you can call it that. But again, that's happened before, and by March they've been a completely different team. And yes, sometimes they do let you down in the tournament, but they at least end up becoming a tournament team and being a team that you have some faith in. And I think they will be that kind of team by the time March rolls around. I just think they're young and they got a lot of things to kind of develop. But we'll see. We'll see. It's going to be interesting. And we'll see how these holiday tournaments play out, and then we'll have some idea. It's a better idea of some of these teams, especially these. I like to call them the fringe teams. Anything from, you go from top after the top 15 and beyond. I call them the fringe teams, the teams that you're kind of trying to figure out that could end up being top 10 kind of teams, or teams that can make deep runs. We've seen a lot of teams go from unranked to winning the title. So, it's important to look at those teams, especially to see what kind of potential they might have to make a run come March. So keep that in mind. So, again, not a lot of takeaways. There's some interesting games tonight. As I mentioned, a couple interesting games. Let's see here. Let's see if we can get some score updates out here. Wisconsin and Georgetown. Wisconsin has pulled away in that game. It's 73-56 Wisconsin, a minute and 5 left. That game on ESPN2. Indiana's having a little bit of a tough time with IPFW, which is interesting. We'll see if that holds. Right now, IPFW up 38-36 at the half there. Oregon with a 69-65 win over Tennessee, who looks much improved. Colorado, big win over Texas, 68-54. Syracuse all over South Carolina State, 101-59. Later tonight, a couple of interesting games. Georgia, Kansas at 10 o'clock p.m. on ESPN2. Both teams 3-1. And again, as I mentioned earlier, UNC and Oklahoma State will face off in a big game on ESPN at 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time tonight. Both those teams unbeaten. So a couple interesting games left on the docket here tonight. Over this next week, you'll see some pretty big games. I think this week you'll have generally a lot more things to take away because, again, the holiday tournaments will reach their peak. And the early part of next week, I also believe you'll have things like the ACC Big Ten Challenge, the SEC, the SEC Big Ten Challenge, whatever it is. You'll have those games coming up over the next couple of weeks, over the next week or so. So I mentioned the games you have tonight. Tomorrow you have a couple of interesting games. Why won't it let me change the schedule? Oh, here it goes. There it goes. Froze up for me for a second. Apologies there. Tomorrow, let's see, anything of interest. I guess Wichita State LSU might be interesting if you want to see how Wichita State is. VCU Baylor might be interesting. Oregon, Connecticut. Michigan at South Carolina. Michigan State at St. John versus St. John's might be interesting. So not too much tomorrow of interest. Let's see. Thursday, again, as you go along, you'll start getting to better and better games. Temple, Florida State on Thursday. That'd be the only one on Thursday, but Thursday's more for football anyway. So Friday, let's see, not a whole lot there either. Again, that's more for college football as well. Virginia, Iowa, I guess could be interesting if you're looking for something. Otherwise, I don't see anything else on there. Saturday. Syracuse, South Carolina. Yeah, not a whole lot. Even going through Saturday, I thought as the weekend would come on, you'd have some interesting games, but not really. Yeah, even Sunday. I'm looking at Sunday. There's not a whole lot there either. Some of these these tournaments this year are really disappointing. Kentucky, Arizona State on Monday might not be horrible. Yeah, Monday's not much either. I think the class, yeah, so that's not, okay, so that's not, okay, North Dakota State at Xavier Tuesday, might keep an eye on that. That might be a cool game. Made the tournament last year, North Dakota State. Pittsburgh at Maryland's not bad on Tuesday. Yeah, there's your Syracuse at Wisconsin. Notre Dame, Iowa at Notre Dame. Michigan State at Duke. Well, that's going to be a rough game for Michigan State. Yeah, you got your ACC Big Ten Challenge on Tuesday. So that's will start some big games. So for those that these holiday tournaments this year are going to be disappointing. So you're not going to have a good idea about a lot of these teams over the next week like you normally would. The week after will probably be when you start to get in some big games. Like you got the ACC Big Ten Challenge. SEC, I think, is Big East, I believe, or Big Ten, one or the other. Or SEC Big 12, I should say. So you'll get a little bit more. You have a little bit more in the way of better games next week, for sure. And then, again, you'll have a little bit. So maybe it's good that we're waiting 2 weeks to do the college basketball preview because there'll be better games next week to kind of get a better measure of some of these teams. So kind of disappointed. I remember looking at the schedule thinking there were some good games on the schedule over the holiday tournament period, but I guess not. Good thing we had that first 2 weeks where we had a lot of good games because otherwise you'd think this would be a rough start to the season. But anyway, there's not much else to add. We talked about, again, takeaways so far from the early part of the season and over the last week. And what's to come, we talked about that. And obviously, like I said, there's not much to go on in baseball. So that's it. Again, we didn't have a lot of sports stuff to go over. Other than obviously football we covered earlier today. So we don't have anything else to go. So Mike's still off the air. We're just going to move on. I don't think he would have anything to add anyway. So no sense in wasting time. Oh, he jumps back on. Welcome back, Mike.
I was handling some business, and I'm still handling the business. I will explain to you off air what is going on, but you're gonna have to give me like another like 3 minutes. So it'd be hard for you, obviously, but keep talking.
Okay. Well, anyway, as I was saying before, Mike decided to make a cameo and then drop back out again. That's all we got really for sports. Not much to really go on here, so we'll just move on.
I can hear you.
I don't care. So with that being said, we will move on to we'll move into wrestling, so we can move on here. And as I mentioned, we're gonna start, of course, with the fallout from Survivor Series, and then move on to Monday Night Raw. I think as a whole, it was a solid event. As a whole. Now, obviously, look, I understand why they felt they had the main event with Brock and Goldberg, but if you're going to have the match be like that, and I guess most people were okay with it because it's Goldberg's return, and they were probably happy and shocked to see what happened, and that's fine. So it's not going to get panned as much as if Brock was facing somebody else. But I don't know if that was the right choice, especially since it was hard to top that 5-on-5 Raw SmackDown men's match, which was just amazing. Easily one of my favorite matches of the year. From the way they eliminated Owens and Jericho, which continued their story, to Braun Strowman and getting the satisfaction of seeing James Ellsworth tossed completely off the stage, and Braun looked great in that match, to having the Wyatt family stand tall at the end of that match. Of course, Survivor Series, we've seen a lot of situations like that where somebody unexpected stands tall. Dolph Ziggler, of course, and that never goes anywhere. But hey, and the cool Shield reunion, mini Shield reunion. So I like that they used the match to kind of push some angles and set some things up. I thought that was clever, and they did that throughout the night with all the matches, the tag team match, the women's match, 5-on-5. They did that throughout the night, and all the matches. I thought the women's match could have been a little longer. I thought they kind of short-shrifted them there. I thought they could have done more with that match. Some of the eliminations were just too quick. I don't know how good idea it was for Nia Jax to tap out, but I like the fact that they had Becky, the last person standing, as far as the SmackDown team goes. It looks like they're sparking a storyline with Nikki Bella and somebody else, so they're moving her away from Carmella, which sucks because they never that feud did nothing for Carmella when it could have. So you have the women's match. The Intercontinental title match was good for what it was. They did the right thing. They couldn't take the title off Miz that quick, and they protected Sami Zayn there. So all in all, that was fine. The tag match was nice to see somebody other than New Day kind of have some kind of moment to shine in Sheamus and Cesaro. And again, as I mentioned, the 5-on-5 with the Raw and SmackDown, the men's match was great. Shane McMahon, that spot was crazy. Nice to see Randy Orton break character there to console Shane's family, which I thought was a classy move there. But yeah, I thought that match again served a lot of storylines well. And then you had the main event, which we now know why it went the way it did. At the time, I thought it was stupid. I still kind of think it was stupid, but can't do anything about it. That's the way they want to set up the program, and we'll talk more about that in a few minutes. But it is what it is. Obviously, some of these things played out on Monday Night Raw last night, but we'll talk more about that in a moment. First, I want to throw them. Mike, are you ready? Okay, I'll throw to you, and you can give your thoughts on Survivor Series here while I try to get this cat out of my bag.
Outside was frightful, but the wrestling was fairly delightful. Yeah, that's too strong. I say this saying that I didn't see half the show, so I did go back and watch some finishes. The Sami Zayn thing was contrived. I feel like they're going to move him to SmackDown after this and after the Miz. Because the thing with Dolph Ziggler has literally run its course, I think. Can't run the same thing with Sammy that you run with Dolph. you kind of have to let Sammy win and get the one over on Miz here. But forward, the SmackDown versus Raw tag match, fairly good, very good. I was really interested. I had to watch this one on YouTube. Happy. Excuse me. I was really happy that the sole survivors were Sheamus and Cesaro, the last eliminating the Usos. Really happy that Sheamus and Cesaro were the sole survivors, and God, they pulled the trigger on them last night. If only they pulled the trigger on them last night. But however, that being said, solid match altogether. I didn't see the women's match at all. Nia Jax tapping them was not surprising, especially since he had to have some reason for Becky Lynch to kind of out of there. I don't think they're dropping Nikki Bella versus Carmella yet. If they are, that has done Carmella a big disservice. Dick move, SmackDown. Dick move. Watching Braun Strowman, Ellsworth, a fair distance off the stage and through a table. That was so satisfying. It was juicy moment. For those of us who are getting sick of the James Ellsworth train. Yes, dog. Shut up, dog. Shut up. Braun looked really, really good in the match. Lasted in that match a little too long, I think. He should have been out longer or earlier than he should have been. Earlier in the match. Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho were great. Owens didn't get pinned. That was just a good way of getting him out of there. Came down to Roman and Seth. Seth goes first. Roman goes second. They put over Bray Wyatt, of all people. That was interesting. Didn't expect that. I'm glad that if they were going to go in that direction, that Bray Wyatt, of all people, is the one getting put over. It makes sense. It gets him over as a danger. Randy Orton survives as well. Builds those two up. Now there's a renewed interest in Bray Wyatt on SmackDown, which should happen. AJ got pinned. Bomb. Great moment. Great moment. The Raw versus SmackDown 5-on-5 was fine. It was really good. Went all over about an hour, which was fine. It needed to go an hour, especially considering that was essentially, for all intents and purposes, the main event.
Yeah.
So, Goldberg versus Brock was a beast unto itself, no pun intended. I will say this, though. In the end, SmackDown lost to Raw 3-2. And I find it funny that the only person who got punished last night for losing was Sami Zayn. Stupid, but moving forward. Goldberg beats Brock in 1 minute and 30 seconds. Now, there was a lot of outrage. There's a lot of people being upset. And then you realize it's a way to humanize Brock Lesnar. It's a way to kind of bring him back down, that there's another conqueror on the horizon, and Brock Lesnar got lazy, essentially. So when Juggernaut meets the lazier Juggernaut Juggernaut's going down in 1 minute and 30 seconds. So I think it was a big shock. It was crazy. A lot of people felt like they wasted that rub that The Undertaker gave him on Goldberg. I don't feel that way. I think that they're going in a different direction with Brock. I think that Brock conquering Goldberg is going to be a moment that happens at WrestleMania, which means that Brock Lesnar Shane McMahon match is tabled. Sorry. But I think we're getting Brock versus Goldberg at Mania, and I think that's where Brock Lesnar kind of reclaims that status as conqueror. He's still going to lose 2-1 to Goldberg. Goldberg is 2 up on Brock, and that's never going to change. That being said, it was a shocking moment. I thought we'd at least get a match, but no. That Goldberg run was so effective. He arrived, he jackhammered, and he left. Jackhammered and left. That's all Goldberg really needs to do. And now there's hype around Goldberg. He's going to be in the Royal Rumble. There's interest in the Royal Rumble. Oh, is Goldberg going to win the Rumble? Probably not, but you never know. It's going to be interesting. So it created a lot of hype on the way out. You wouldn't want to see Goldberg versus Kevin Owens.
That would be cool. Now, speaking of Goldberg, last night he made a big announcement at the top of the show in putting himself into this year's Royal Rumble. That was the big start to the show. And then throughout the show, you had other movement. You already alluded to it. You had the New Day and Sheamus and Cesaro have a tag match, which the New Day cheated. So it looks like we might be turning New Day heel again because they were pretty open about them.
Why.
The only thing I can we'll talk later about it, but the only thing I can think of is that they want to extend this title reign as long as possible, and they realize that as good guys, they're kind of getting stale. Which they are getting stale because somebody has to beat them to make them interesting again. It can't just keep, and it looks like they're gonna have them run through, defend the titles almost every week going until they break the record, and then I'm guessing there'll be a multiple tag team match at the pay-per-view, and that's the way they're going to go about it. And probably maybe they'll drop it there. I don't know. I highly doubt it, but I don't like the way they did it. I don't think you need to turn them heel. And to me, that match indicated they are. I mean, yeah, they've done some things before, but they were pretty open about cheating last night and being okay with it. So to me, it looked like a heel turn almost, but we'll see. I didn't really care for that too much. That was kind of like the sour point of the show. Otherwise, I thought they developed a lot of things well. The women's stuff developed well with Nia going into a feud with Sasha, it looks like, and then Bayley and Charlotte. You had other things. The Braun, Sammy. I'm interested in what they're doing with Sammy and Foley. I'm curious about it. I don't like putting him back with Braun, but they're pushing Braun heavily, so you got to go somewhere, I guess. The Jericho Owens thing was the highlight. That was freaking brilliant. You think they're going to break up, and then this amazing highlight reel there, and the main event, which I thought again was a great match, one of the better matches of the year. Rollins came off great there. They're doing a much better job of him right now. Rollins came off great there. Owens came off great. Jericho was kind of trolling in his interference, but we all appreciate that. It was a great main event. And everything developed, and they kind of, now we'll see how they play this. I still think we're headed for maybe a fatal four-way or some kind of multiple guy match for the title, but we'll see. I thought it was a good Raw last night. I thought they developed a lot of things well. The only thing I didn't really like was the way they handled the tag team stuff with New Day. But other than that, I thought it was a good show. They've gone all in on Rick Swann and stuff, so I like what they're doing. Mike, you have any thoughts on last night's Raw? I know you probably do.
Jericho are the best thing going in WWE last now, and that and the Raw's Jericho. What's the highlight reel? The highlight reel segment cemented it because they had you believing they were going to break up, and the moment they both yelled Roman Reigns and hugged, that made for a beautiful segment. Those are two guys out of the palm of their hand. They told the story, and it's like, nope, they're not breaking up just yet. And it made literally Canada cheered for the best friendship, for the best friends staying together. It was an incredible moment. Rich Swann winning Like, oh well, now they're interchangeable, but Rich Swann is not interchangeable. He's been the only like cruiserweight other than Kendrick that's had personality.
Yeah.
Vari, Nice, and Gulak have, but they haven't had enough time.
Right.
Face cruiserweights don't have personality except for Rich Swann. Of course, that the 205 Live main event is going to be our top heel cruiserweight versus the only other cruiserweight with personality on the face side. So good for. I can't wait. I'm actually excited to see Swann versus Kendrick. That should be a good match. There shouldn't be a title change though. Excuse me. The fact that Strowman versus Sammy happened and it was not a close fight, and it was not a close match. I understand it's because Strowman attacked Sammy before the bell, and then Sammy just mustered the offense he could, but he was already taken out. Match was stopped by Foley. That was a weird segment. Cut off Sammy at the knees a little bit. If that match had just continued where Strowman made him submit and Sammy refused to give up, it would have made Sammy it would have made Braun look like a monster, but it would have made Sammy look better. So I'm extraordinarily curious to see where they're going with Sami Zayn here. Sami Zayn better, as in he's the only pure face on the Raw roster, and they don't know what to do with him. Mrs. Cesaro should be tag team champions today, and the fact that they're not is embarrassing. So now we're going to have the Club versus the New Day again next week, which we've got for the 50 millionth time. And I think the New Day are going to cheat to win that one too. Means I think at Roadblock we're finally getting that title change. I think it has to happen because I think what's going to come to a head is they're going to get a multi-guy tag match.
Yeah.
I know what I just said, multi-guy tag. There's going to be a multi-team tag match. I think in the end, Brian Gardner going dark on us, of course. We're going to get the New Day. They're going to lose the titles at some point. I don't know just who it is yet. I think we're going to the Divas segment was effective. I feel like Nia Jax probably should have mentioned that she's Charlotte either. So, heel logic, I guess. But we should get Nia Jax versus Sasha Banks. Excuse me, it's been a long day. And then, by the way, Sasha is not champion after next week. The main event of Raw last night was absolutely fantastic. Rollins put on a hell of a show. Nice no DQ match. Made sense. Established the apron powerbomb as a devastating finisher again. Great way of doing it. Jericho coming out in the Shinsuke Nakamura sweater and the Sin Cara mask was really, really funny. So I know they had to sell like, oh, well, Jericho broke the rules, and he did. It was a really, really solid match. Told a great story, great action, great pacing. And Rollins put on a show. So it's going to be interesting to see where we go from here.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be interesting to see where we go from here. Okay. And other than that, Raw was pretty good. Much about it.
It's better than SmackDown looks.
Well, it was way better than SmackDown looks. And I will say this though, special shout out to Corey Graves. The dude is the best color commentator in the WWE by far.
Oh yeah.
But Graves is so good, it's ridiculous. Shout out to Byron Saxton. Tonga.
Best thing Triple H ever did was sign Corey Graves to a contract.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, not the best thing. One of the best things. Because he's done a lot of good things. But Yeah. All right, so a couple of other things to address before we wind down here, because there's obviously some other wrestling news that pertains to some of the things we mentioned. That now we kind of know why that Brock Lesnar match went the way it did. Well, that's because Goldberg's going to be in the Rumble, and now there's word that Brock Lesnar will also be in the Royal Rumble. So Vince is really trying to fill that dome. There's also talk of Roman Reigns facing Braun Strowman at WrestleMania. That looks very likely. Apparently, Braun will enter into a program with the Big Show and then go on to a program with Roman Reigns for the U.S. title, which, that's kind of cool. And you know what? That's actually a good thing for Roman this year because you won't have to worry about being in the main event. That's a good thing for Roman, and the crowd will like that. He won't be in a big match. And you know what? You can kind of, book that the way you want to book that. I mean, it's he can kind of play it cool for a couple months. It's going to be good for him. So those things are going on. Obviously, the big stuff is Brock Lesnar, Goldberg. It's been said that Goldberg has signed an open-ended deal. He'll work whatever Vince tells him to do. So we have no idea when this Goldberg run will be over. We know that he'll more than likely face Lesnar one more time, probably at WrestleMania. After that, there's a possibility that he used Goldberg with other guys. Mike mentioned earlier Goldberg versus Kevin Owens. Maybe you can do that like SummerSlam next year. You can do that, or you can do Goldberg versus, who else could you? Too bad Ryback's not around. You could do something with that, but it looks like he's here for this to stay for a while, and he'll just work some dates, and So and knowing that, I think you feel a little bit better about it, because at least it's a guy that's staying around. You could build him up and do something with him. But when you thought it was this Goldberg's last match, I can understand the nostalgia of it, but just kind of whatever. But we'll see. It's interesting now that Royal Rumble is going to be stacked, and if they do decide to add guys like Cena and Undertaker to it, that makes it even more stacked. I don't think they will, but there's always that potential. So before we wind down, Mike, you got anything else to add?
No, we're good to go.
Okay. Yeah. We're not going to do any entertainment news. There's nothing pressing that has to be discussed right this second. So we'll leave it because I don't want to go too late here because this is my second show today, so I'm just kind of but, we got through everything we had to get through. So, again, any entertainment news that we could have talked about tonight, we'll do next week. We'll have more time next week. So, with all that said, let's wind down. As always, the show might be over. It's not mean you have to stop interacting, contributing to the show. Continue to have your voice heard. Send us your feedback, your questions about the show and the scheduling of the show, reactions, comments, or opinions on things we talked about, things we said on the show. Any of these things you can do. You can send to us breaking news items or topic ideas that you want to make sure we cover from sports, entertainment, wrestling. Any things you can send to us anytime you wish by Facebook, by email, Facebook, and Twitter. You can email us at itspotlight411@gmail.com. You can also follow us and tweet us at itspotlight411. Remember, use the hashtag itspotlight411 or create your own hashtag as long as it starts with hashtag ITS and as long as it's not disrespectful, insulting, or offensive. If you could do that, we'd appreciate it. You can do hashtag ITS football, baseball, basketball, whatever you want, or come up with something completely different and random and fun. Whatever you want to do, as long as it's not disrespectful or offensive. That's all we ask. And again, please start with hashtag ITS to help promote our show. You can also find us on Facebook. Search for In the Spotlight 411 on Facebook. Make sure you like our page upon finding it. We encourage you to follow us on Facebook and Twitter for the latest information about the show. That's the best way to get scheduling information. Obviously, we always try to let you know about things beforehand, but sometimes, as you all know, the last-minute stuff can happen, so you want to make sure you follow us on Facebook and Twitter to make sure you get those updates. We also post other things on there as well, so really beneficial to follow us on there, so make sure on Facebook and Twitter to make sure that you do. A number of ways to keep up with our show. If you miss an episode, even a part of an episode, maybe you want to look back at classic episodes, whatever the case may be, have two ways in which to do that. You can either, if you prefer streaming and seeing us on screen, maybe maybe you're interested in more of our recent stuff rather than stuff from 3-4 years ago. Whatever the case may be, you can find us on Google Plus and YouTube by searching for us under our title In the Spotlight 411, and you'll have access when you do that. You'll be taken to our show pages on Google Plus and YouTube. And when you do that, when you go to those show pages, you'll find every episode we've done and produced for Google Plus and YouTube. So everything from mid-October of 2015 all the way to today's episodes. The episodes are in order from most recent to the oldest for you. So all those episodes from Google Plus, YouTube available to you anytime. Just search for In the Spotlight 411 on Google Plus and YouTube, and you'll have access to those episodes. You can stream them anytime you wish. If you're more of a fan of audio podcasts, maybe you prefer to listen to us rather than see us, then you can find us on, and maybe if you're interested in older episodes of our show from beyond the last year or so of our show, then you can find us on Podbean and iTunes to search for In the Spotlight 411. And when you do that, you'll be taken to our show pages on both those sites, on Podbean and iTunes. And when you do that, you'll have access to every episode we've ever done over the 6 years we've been doing this show. That includes our Google Plus and YouTube episodes, transferred into audio format for your convenience. Every episode we've ever done is in order from most recent to the oldest on both of our pages on those sites, Podbean and iTunes. Just search for In the Spotlight 401. You'll have access to those episodes. So everything from October 2010 all the way up into today's episode is available to you. Every episode from Blog Talk Radio, TalkShoe, and now Google Plus YouTube is available to you anytime you wish. Maybe you missed a part of an episode. Maybe you missed an episode completely. Maybe you're a longtime fan, let's look back at an episode from years ago. Maybe you're a new fan, let's look at episodes from years ago from the first time. Whatever the case may be, you can do all that on Podbean and iTunes to search for In the Spotlight 411. So Podbean, iTunes, Google Plus, YouTube, all ways to keep up with our show. Whether you want to stream us or listen to us on the go, or just listen to us in general. You can do all these again. Google Plus, YouTube, Podbean, iTunes. Just search for In the Spotlight 411, and you'll be able to do all that. Anytime you wish. So feel free to utilize those resources. Very, very helpful. I want to thank Mike for being here tonight. Thank you, Mike.
For bed. Oh, and happy Thanksgiving.
Yes, of course. Got to mention that. Thank myself and our great show, Pat Savannah back, and thank all of you for continued support and contribution to the show. Thank you so much for watching. To those that will be watching or listening to this later, thank you to you as well. I never did this afternoon on the football show. I never patted myself on the back and really thanked anybody. I kind of rushed through the ending there, so I apologize for that. So double pat on the back there. Thank you to everybody that checked out that show and, of course, checked out tonight's show. To those of you that have not watched or listened to the Football Blitz show from this afternoon yet, this week's Football Blitz, it is available on Google Plus, YouTube, Podbean, and iTunes for you to check out anytime you wish. Our next Football Blitz show, again, is not until next week. We are preempted the rest of this week, so please keep that in mind. And again, this is it for this week. This is our last show. We did 2 shows in one day. Our next show will not be until a week from tonight, which is November the 29th. Here on YouTube, I should say. I always say Google Plus. We don't do Google Plus Live. It's just YouTube Live. So here on YouTube Live at 9 o'clock Eastern Time a week from tonight will be our next show. We'll cover anything from sports outside of football that we have to cover. Probably a little bit of baseball with free agency and such probably getting truly going. We'll have some big college basketball games. We'll do all that. Obviously, some more wrestling stuff, Fallout from Monday Night Raw, all that good stuff on next Tuesday's show. We'll have a SmackDown pay-per-view to preview, I believe, so we might do that too. I don't know if that's next week or the week after, but if it is, we'll do that next Tuesday. Next Thursday, of course, will be our entertainment show, Box Office Beat, TV highlights, entertainment news, and more. All that next Thursday, and of course, next Friday will be the next edition of the Football Blitz, in which we look back at the previous week in the NFL and college football, look ahead to the upcoming week, college football playoff rankings, all of that on that show. So that's what's going on next week. 3 shows back to normal next week. Until then, I hope you all have a great holiday, great Thanksgiving, a great rest of your weekend, a great weekend. Stay safe, enjoy, and we'll see you back here a week from tonight, November the 29th, for our next show, broadcasting and streaming here on YouTube Live at 9 o'clock from Eastern Time a week from tonight, November the 29th. Until then, have a good night, everybody. Happy Thanksgiving.